Thanksgiving is a horror comedy movie that feels like it was made specifically for me. It's a slasher film, and it's a revenge slasher film specifically, which is my favorite kind. It has mystery elements, and since it takes place during Thanksgiving, they even went the extra mile of setting the entire film in the town of Plymouth, Massachusetts. Besides being home to one of the most disappointing landmarks in the United States in the form of Plymouth Rock, Plymouth, Massachusetts also happens to be where I grew up. And it's just fun when media sets itself in the place where you're from. It also made it a rather strange experience because this movie was not shot on location. It's a sound set version of Plymouth and very different from the one I know. First of all, Plymouth East High? Were you guys high when you wrote that? Plymouth is geographically very spread out for a town, but a lot of the people tend to live on the coast, which means the majority of people, I would have to assume, would be going to Plymouth East High as opposed to Plymouth West. Plymouth East and Plymouth West just don't hit the ear right. No, it's Plymouth North and South as God intended. And for some reason, a large part of the plot revolves around a rivalry between Plymouth East High's football team and the football team of Hanover South. And while I don't really understand the logic of picking Hanover as the rival for Plymouth East, it is funny that the guy they have playing the main football player from that team has probably the best accent from that area of the whole movie. And while we're on the subject, since it relates to Thanksgiving, there is a funny thing about Plymouth North High School's football team. Their mascot is the eagle. I'm of the opinion, not just for Thanksgiving purposes, that they should be the turkeys. Now, there's this myth that the national bird of the United States was almost a turkey instead of an eagle. That's not accurate. What actually happened was Benjamin Franklin was commenting on the original design of the Great Seal that included an eagle, which he thought looked more like a turkey. He called the eagle a bird of bad moral character and implied they were lazy in how they hunt and sustain themselves. And regarding the turkey, he said it was a much more respectable bird. He did say it was vain and silly, but it was a bird of courage. If this movie was going to go ahead and invent how the high schools were broken up in Plymouth anyway, why not give us Plymouth High turkeys? That's all I'm asking. Another fun detail is the use and reference to Cordage Park, which is kind of an industrial commercial area in Plymouth that they set the Right Mart store in the story. And that's funny to me because Right Mart is clearly a competitor of the likes of Walmart. It's like a big box department store. And in Cordage Park, they've never had a Walmart to my knowledge. They may have since I've left in the last 10 years. But they did, a long time ago when I was a kid, have a Kmart that went out of business. So something about that choice of putting the Right Mart in Cordage Park feels right to me specifically. The movie itself is a revenge plot because at this Right Mart at a midnight opening on Thanksgiving evening into Black Friday, there was a tragedy where 3 people lost their lives due to a trampling. And our slasher villain has decided to take vengeance for unknown reasons because clearly they had connections to one of the people who lost their lives. So they are dressing up as the first governor of Plymouth Colony, John Carver, in this plastic mask and in this silly pilgrim hat. He looks like a discount version of V from V for Vendetta. And the killer is slowly collecting and inviting the people he believes were responsible for how badly that night turned out, and hosting them for what has to be the worst Thanksgiving dinner of all time. The kills are silly, but still horrific. I couldn't stop alternating between laughing my heart out and cringing very deeply. And it's a movie that knows what kind of movie it is. It's leaning heavily into this silly but horrific tone, and is not afraid to make really contrived plot decisions for the purpose of setting up a silly and fun moment. Like the moment of our hero shooting a musket into the balloon of a giant turkey that was used during the Thanksgiving Day parade that's behind the killer as he's coming at her. And sure, it was just a musket ball, but of course it exploded. We all know it was gonna. And the best part of this movie is that it works as a standalone horror movie at any time of the year during 31 Days of Horror, and it's clearly a Thanksgiving movie that I'm going to now watch on Thanksgiving every year as well. That's the kind of 2-for-1 deal that rivals any deal that was at Right Mart the night of that tragedy. Only a few more movies left in 31 Days of Horror. If you want to watch these last movies with me, the list of films I'm watching is in a list in my pinned videos. Until next time, give thanks and get even.